Let's dive into education a little more. You mentioned not being real happy with the performance of the schools. What do you think of the education system just in general? Do you think that we need more competition, that we need to change the formula? I mean, what would your priorities with education be?
Well, my priorities I would love to see a voucher system. Bring competition back in, so the parents get to choose where they want to send their kids. And by doing that, the public schools now can actually have somebody competing against them. It's like going to, let's say there's only McDonald's. They're the only fast food place around. Do you honestly think their food's going to get better and their prices are going to go lower? They're not. But we think that in the public sector. Let's say we have one choice. You go to this public schools only. What's making them be better? What is making them push harder? There's nothing. I mean, perfect example. I don't want to pick on him, so I won't say the name. But my oldest son had a teacher in first grade, and I was ready to pull him out and homeschool. And I find out he was my first student through the school, and so we didn't get a chance to know a lot of the parents yet as a first grader or understand who were the good teachers by then. Well, she had second highest tenure in the school. So she had no chance of being fired or let go. Yet the whole rumor around the school, he found out once we had this teacher, talked to the other parents, it was like everyone does not want that teacher. They make any effort they can to make sure their child is not in her classroom. Yet why can't we get rid of her? Oh, tenure. These unions. If there was true competition, she would not be there. If you can't perform, I mean, she was in first grade, and she's not teaching reading, writing, and arithmetic. She is teaching social agendas in first grade and things that had nothing to do with normal teaching. And then on top of that, she was very intimidating to my son. His performance in kindergarten was so much lower than all the other grades he's been in. I mean, it's a perfect example as important as having quality teachers that really want to be there and they're the best they can be. That's something striving them to be the best they can. Right now we don't have that without a competition from the outside.
Yeah, and it's interesting that Tom Doer is sitting at the negotiating table over there in St. Paul from Education, Minnesota, which I don't find. Of course, Lyndon, I'm sure is endorsed by them. Well, he's a retired teacher. I don't know if he's ever held a private sector job before.
I don't think he has either. And actually, I believe he was the one that brought Tom Doer to the table. And he's on the chairman, one of the persons on the education committee. He may have been the chairman. But I know he was the one that actually brought him to the table.
Huh.
And
well, I'm stuck with Sandy Peterson, who's the former president of the Robbinsdale Federation of Teachers and the Education Minnesota. So their cohorts, they spread around their slush money everywhere.
Yes.
Well, let me ask you something about the local district here, because the local district the community seems very divided on their performance. I've been told I'm part of that division, although I can't imagine why. Your kids go to District 281. Yep. What do you think about the local district here? And I mean, you shared a little story, but yep. What's your general feeling towards them?
Overall, I mean, they're not totally terrible. There's some good teachers in there. I like some of the teachers my kids have had, but they continually ask for more money. I mean, that's all we hear about. More money, more money, more money. And I really don't believe that's the solution to everything. But there's definitely some improvements. I know when they get money, a lot of times it doesn't go to where it's supposed to go to. A perfect example, I know a friend who's up in Anoka. They passed a referendum a year or so ago, and I think it was, I could be incorrect in this, but I think it was 70% of the money went directly to the administration costs. Directly. And so there's only 30% went to where it's supposed to go. I don't think that's, I mean, so a lot of times when there's money given into these additional money put in, it's not going to where it's supposed to go. They say it's going, it's not going there.
Well, and also, we're in a district with declining enrollment,
yes.
which you hear all the time. And I keep saying, if you have declining enrollment, why are you hiring more staff?
Yep.
Where does that come from? What business would hire more people if they had fewer customers? All right, let me jump on. Let me throw you a few curveballs here. We'll go into some lesser issues. Viking Stadium is something that is likely to come up the next couple of years. I know they only have a couple of years left on their lease. Let me just throw this out. What was your opinion of the Twin Stadium, the Gopher Stadium, and what's your opinion of using the general fund to fund a future Viking Stadium?
I'm not really for I love the Vikings. I'm a huge Viking fan since day one. I mean, as long as I can remember.
Feel sorry for you then.
Yes, I know. I've had a lot of disappointing years, trust me. I was there all those years when they went to Super Bowl. Yeah. I was old enough to know all four and how they lost.
I'm younger. Younger.
He's much younger than me. But I had the privilege and also the pain and suffering to go along with the disappointments they've had. So I definitely want them to stay here. I think there's other ways of doing it. I really don't think, like the Twin Stadium, some of the burden was stuck on those that live in Hennepin County. Why is only the ones in Hennepin taking the burden? There's people from all over the state and across the borders that pay for it. But I think there's other ways of raising money, and I also think the ownership of the Vikings should be paying more money towards their own business, their business. And we don't want them to leave, but there's got to be other ways of enticing them without putting the burden on the fans or the general public. I mean, if we have to raise the ticket price or something to offset some of it, I don't know the great solution right now. I haven't looked hard enough into it, but I don't think we should continually add more taxes and stuff just because we want to keep them here. I definitely want to keep them here, but I don't think that's the route we should be taking.
You know, I always say this about the Vikings. It's hard to play a football game with both arms around your neck.
Thanks a lot.
All right. Well, let's jump to another kind of social issue. Gay marriage is an issue that has been on the ballot in a lot of states the past decade. I guess you can call them the zeros, I guess we'll call them.
Yep.
What's your opinion of gay marriage, and how should the issue be decided? Should it be decided by referendum, the courts, change our Constitution? What do you think about that issue?
I would either possibly change the Constitution, or another one is that should let the people in the state of Minnesota vote on it, like a lot of other states have done that. That's probably the most preferred route to go. Put the vote out to the people. It is a country of we the people, by the people, and for the people, so let's let them decide.
Well, you could just be California and just have a referendum every year until it passes. Could we do that? That's what they're trying to do out there, I think.
I mean, I can't believe the courts have the gall. One person can overwrite the whole state. I don't know how that can even be. Obviously, another court went in there and overturned it for the time being.
Yeah, it just jumps from a district court to a state court to and just wherever. Well, you know, you bring up, this is an interesting question. I'll throw this out to you. The federal government, especially under President Obama, has really grown its power. I mean, they really are they always have stuck their noses everywhere. But I think they're really encroaching on what states should be doing. Yeah. How does the Minnesota legislature, how do you reverse that trend and get states to do the jobs they're supposed to and the feds to go do the job they're supposed to do?
I think some of that has to do with we need to get from the governor and the attorney general, which, well, the governor is obviously Republican, but attorney general and other, they have the ability, like even if Chris Barton, if he wins election for attorney general, he said he would put a lawsuit against the U.S. government for enforcing universal health care or coverage.
Yeah, the states have to pick up part of the tab, don't they? Yeah.
And so he thinks that's unconstitutional. I mean, we are a state, it's called United States. We're united, but we are a state. Yeah. It's supposed to be basically independently run. But we're a group, but I mean, they feel like it's one big state. The federal government thinks the 50 states are just one. And we need to cut ties. We need more of the legislators at the state level. Anything we can do, or even this person like attorney generals or governors can step in a little bit if there's ways of drawing that line. And sometimes a lot of things are tied into funding.
Yeah, I was
just
going to bring that up.
If we take funding, then we have to follow what they say. So sometimes we have to just cut the bullet. And a lot of times these programs we're getting funding for, we don't even want the program anyway. So why take money for something?
Probably because it closes our little budget gap for a little while. And they can, I mean, that's one of the things I always say is that we need legislators that remember that federal funding, state funding, local funding is all our money.
Yes.
And we don't seem to have that attitude.